Good afternoon and welcome to Sports Scene. I'm Camardella with Lida Z and Adam Bradford. Today, Los Angeles is holding a championship parade for the first time since the Lakers won the NBA Finals in 2010, as the Rams celebrate their thrilling Super Bowl victory over the Bengals on Sunday. And you are actually looking live outside the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum, where the parade finished up and the rally began, featuring speeches from Mayor Eric Garcetti, as well as many key factors in the Rams' victory, including head coach Sean McVay, quarterback Matthew Stafford, wide receiver and Super Bowl MVP Cooper Kupp all spoke to a bunch of raucous fans outside the Coliseum. The parade began outside Shrine Auditorium as players boarded a big bus saying World Champions on it and drove down to confetti and many fans watching outside while they showed off the Lombardi Trophy, smoked cigars, and just enjoyed all the spoils of victory. The parade then made a right on Figueroa Street and went all the way down to the Coliseum where the rally and speeches began. All right, we're going to turn it over to Leah and Adam now. With the Rams taking home their first championship in their new city, what does this win mean for the Rams' status in LA?
He's played 41 games.
The Rams' victory is definitely really meaningful to the city of LA. Winning the Super Bowl changes everything, especially when the Rams have done it in LA. LA is a city full of championships. The Rams needed to win, and they have done it, so their popularity is definitely on the rise.
I mean, sure, their popularity may be on the rise, but, is it really that high? I mean, you saw in the videos, there was barely anyone there. I walked by on the way here. You could literally walk right up to the rail, be in the front row. I could walk up and practically get hit by the champagne that Cooper Kupp was spraying. Whereas I was at the Patriots parade in Boston 3 years ago. I got there 3 hours early, had to swarm through a mass of people just so I could even get a glimpse of Tom Brady with the Lombardi Trophy. Here, I could just go right up to it. So, sure, it's great to see people celebrating and all, but there's barely anyone here, not to mention that Los Angeles wasn't even one of the top 10 rated markets for the Super Bowl, despite that the Rams were playing in it. Heck, Detroit was one of the top 3, Matthew Stafford's old team. In other words, fans in Detroit seem to care more than Matthew Stafford and the Rams won the Super Bowl, more than people here in LA did. So, sure, it's great that the Rams won the Super Bowl and all, but they still have a long way to go to really establish themselves as LA's NFL team.
Well, relatively speaking, you have to keep in mind the Rams just got here. This has been historically LA, not a football town. It's been a Dodger town and it's been a Laker town. And the reason it's a Dodger and a Laker town is because those two teams do a lot of winning. Obviously, the Lakers have as many championships as anybody in the NBA. The Dodgers are in the playoffs every single year. Rams, it's going to be a work in progress, but when you go on the run that they went on, with what they were able to do over the course of the NFC postseason, getting to the Super Bowl, and I can't stress enough how huge it was that they did it in LA and that this city was actually the center of the championship and the center of everything NFL over the course of the week. I got a chance to go to the Super Bowl experience. It was absolutely packed. It was a week-long promotion, not just for the Rams, but for the sport of football in general. And the fact that they pulled out a win like this, I mean, it's going to extraordinarily help the Rams in terms of their popularity. As far as football goes, this is now the Rams city.
I mean, yeah, sure. It's definitely a great celebration of football in LA, and I think football is definitely very popular in LA, but I said this before, LA is essentially the UN of NFL fandom. I mean, you've got Raiders fans, Cowboys fans, Steelers fans, Packers fans, 49ers fans. The Rams are kind of just another team. Heck, when the Rams played the 49ers at SoFi in January, there were more 49ers fans there than Rams fans. And yes, there's definitely a lot of football fans in LA, and it's great to see the NFL promoting their product here. At the same time, a lot of those football fans aren't necessarily Rams fans. And when you don't have an NFL team for 20 years, an entire generation of kids is going to grow up rooting for other teams. So I think the Rams sort of have a long way to go to leave their mark and get kids who grew up in LA who are football fans to become Rams fans rather than, say, 49ers fans or Packers fans or fans of some other team.
Well, LA, you also have to keep in mind, it's also a city of stars. This city is very interested in star power, whether it be Kershaw on the Dodgers or LeBron James on the Lakers now or Kobe beforehand. The Rams now have that star power all over the football field that was on full display in the Super Bowl with the game that Aaron Donald had, for example. If he chooses to come back, he's going to be a huge draw. Matthew Stafford finally getting his first win. And we have to talk about Cooper Kupp, what he was able to do for at the wide receiver position in that fourth quarter in particular, catching 2 touchdowns over the course of the game, including a game winner. That's a legendary moment in LA sports history, the way they force-fed him the ball on that final drive of the game. That's something that a lot of young fans are going to remember. He had over 40 all-purpose yards on that final drive, and that was a Santonio Holmes-esque moment at the end of the game that really is going to solidify the moment, the star power. All of a sudden, the Rams they've started to develop history in the city.
You say it in your copy, all right?
Yeah, they're definitely starting to develop history.
All
But
right,
they still have
fresh
a long
off
way
its
to go.
biggest win of the season over UCLA, the USC men's basketball team hosts Washington on Thursday and Washington State on Sunday at the Galen Center. Adam, is a letdown in store for the Trojans this week?
Potentially. I don't necessarily know if they're going to lose one of those games, but you've seen earlier this year how the game before UCLA against Pacific, sure, Isaiah Mobley wasn't playing. They're coming off a tough loss against Arizona, but they came out very flat in that game. They were trailing by double digits in the second half where they ultimately pulled out the win. And that wasn't the first time this year. They were trailing a bit early against Cal, against some of the other not very good teams they played for win, just because Washington and Washington State are not very good programs. But you can definitely see some of a post-UCLA, pre-Oregon next weekend hangover where they come out slow and they have to sort of find their ground in the second half. What do you think, Lida?
I think with Isaiah Mobley expected to be back, the USC Trojans can definitely win both games this weekend against the Washington schools. Drew Peterson just had perhaps the biggest game of his career. He had 27 points against UCLA last weekend, and other players on the team, like Boobie Ellis, Ethan Anderson, Chavez Goodwin, they're all pretty confident too. They're able to show up if the team needs them to.
Yeah, I'm with Lida. I don't think we can say enough about just how huge that win over UCLA was. In some sense, it's because it's your signature win. You finally beat a team in the top 25. You beat a team that plays in your own city, went to the Final Four last year. But you have to keep in mind not only how good Drew Peterson was, but just how successful USC is when all they do is play to their identity. Keep it in mind. Keep in mind, Isaiah Mobley missed the game. He's their top scorer. Their second best scorer, Boogie Ellis, didn't score a point in this game. Their third best scorer, Chavez Goodwin, was 3 for 9 from the floor. You want to know why they won this game? It's because they played excellent defense, blocking 10 shots, holding UCLA to 30% from the field. When USC holds its opponents to under 40% from the field, they are 17-0. When they don't, they're 4-4. This game proves for everyone in that locker room that all we have to do is play to our identity, and we're going to win every single time we go out on the floor. And that's what they're going to do this week.
I agree with that. They absolutely show that they're capable of, when they play good defense, they're capable of going up against any team in the country. The question is, can they do that on a night in and night out basis? And yeah, they can absolutely rise to the occasion against a big game against UCLA, sold out Galen Center, biggest student section in USC basketball history. But can they do that, say, a Thursday night against a not very good Washington team, or Sunday afternoon of a long weekend against Washington State? I think we'll have to see whether they can bring that same effort and intensity that they did against UCLA into some quote-unquote not as big games.
Well, they've also had 4 days off. You have to consider that. I mean, if it was 2 days later, I could see a hangover. Enfield's had these guys into practice. He's going to have these guys ready to go. And as Lida mentioned, Isaiah Mobley's coming back. That's going to make them a whole lot better and make him much more of a presence down in the paint.
Definitely, yeah. Getting Isaiah Mobley back will be huge. It was a great win for USC without him, but I think if this team's going to make any noise in the NCAA tournament, I think they're going to need Isaiah Mobley to be a big part of that.
All right, just 2 home games remain for the USC women's basketball team. The Trojans are 10-13 on the season and are likely to miss out on March Madness. But let's take a look back on year 1 of the Lindsay Gottlieb era. Lida, was this season a success?
I personally think that the season was not too much of a success, but I'm not really worried. Lindsay Gottlieb, she's a first-year head coach. Usually, sometimes you have a new head coach. The first year is going to be a little bit of a struggle just because the first year you're still just like settling in. The coach is getting used to its players, to the team. So I think next season, they'll definitely come up with a better record and they'll definitely improve.
Yeah, going off of what Lida said, it's tough to draw too much off of a first season for a head coach. Obviously, the famous example is Nick Saban, the greatest college football coach of all time, lost to Louisiana Monroe in his first year at Alabama. Same time, you still do want to see signs. They have shown some fight at times, like when they beat a really good Arizona team. They've also had some games where they just look flat out lifeless and not very good. So it'll be interesting to see, can they play stronger down the stretch? They're not necessarily going to win a lot of games. The Pac-12 is a tough conference, but can they show some fight down the stretch, maybe play some games close, and have something to build off of going into year 2?
Well, look, I don't think 3-13. or I don't think 10 and 13 tells the full story. I think the most significant mark there is 3 and 13 within the conference. The Pac-12 is a very tough conference when it comes to women's basketball, but thus far, USC, 2 of their 3 wins in the Pac-12 came against Washington, who have won 0 conference games. That's something you have to keep in mind. But this week, if we talk about that sort of improvement, if we talk about feeling good going into next year, Utah and Colorado this week are 2 games I really have my eyes on, because those are 2 double-digit losses you had in their first meeting of the year. The Utah loss just came a week ago. You lost by more than 20 points. So if you want to see the mark of improvement, use these 2 games as that sort of benchmark. Let's see how much better they are the second time than they are the first time. That'll be a real good indication of how they're coached.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. The question is, like, they lost by double digits the first 2 times they played both those teams, so they might not win, but can they play them close, play them into the fourth quarter, make it tight down the stretch, make those teams have to work for it? I think if you can do that, that'll definitely show signs of improvement that you can build off of going into year 2.
We're just 2 days out from opening day for the USC baseball team. Head coach Jason Gill and company will start their 2022 schedule with a 3-game series against Santa Clara this weekend. After finishing the 2021 season a game under 500, the Trojans are looking to turn things around. Adam, how much improvement will we see from the Trojans this season?
I think it'll be tough to see. I mean, I think you definitely need to see some improvement. Again, granted, the first season was cut short and last season was weird, but this is year 3 for a coach. And usually by year 3, you're getting to the point where we're starting to see whether or not they're the right guy to lead the program. And that's why we're seeing little glimpses. They looked some good at the beginning of 2020. They knocked off a very good team in TCU and another really good team in Vanderbilt, but then the season got cut short. Last season with the COVID protocols in place and all, they never really got it rolling. They had some really awful offenses. So I think you're going to definitely need to see a step forward from this year. Now they've had a full off-season of workouts under Jason Gill. They brought in a really good recruiting class. Question is, can they build off of it going forward? But I think it's going to be difficult, though, because the Pac-12 is one of the best college baseball conferences in America. There's some really good teams. Heck, UCLA across town is one of the best teams in the country. So can USC sort of get back to where they were 2 years ago and start to build something under Jason Gill? I don't think it's going to be easy for them.
I think the USC baseball team, in 2020, the season got cut off because of COVID. Last season, they weren't really able to get into a rhythm. I think this year they will do better, though, because they have the number 17 overall recruiting class. They have guys like Channing Austin. He's the number 5 player from New York, out from high school. I think guys like him can really make an impact, and so I think they will definitely do better this year.
Well, keep in mind, of course, a lot of new players coming in. The expectation is 5 of the 9 positions will have new players representing them this season. That'll do it for Sports Scene today. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. For Lida, Z, and Adam Bradford, I'm Will Camardella. See you next time.